Right, Scott, thank you for joining us. I've got to say, this is probably the most vertigo-inducing film I think I've ever watched in all my decades of watching movies. It's quite astonishing. Um, Whilst I was watching it, though, the thing that once I kind of got over my vertigo of watching it,
Yeah.
I kind of thought, well, this has got to be CGI. This has got to be CGI. And then I've looked a bit more into it, and I thought, actually, there's no CGI in this.
Yeah.
So go on, tell us about it.
Okay. Tell us why you went on that crazy adventure up a mountain. Yeah. No, I think it came down to, I think you could have done it. Look, I think there was definitely conversations and things early on. Do it CGI, do it in the studio, and all these things. And I think that's a $50 to $100 million movie that just doesn't get made today. Not without kind of IP characters at the top of the tower, right?
Yeah.
So I think so we went about the other way, which is like get a small band of merry men. With these cameras to shoot for IMAX, and kind of found a location which was hard to find, if I'm being honest. It took a long time and a lot of driving and clambering up kind of desert mountains and cliffs and things to get to a place where we found this incredible location out in the middle of the desert called Shadow Mountain. And that allowed us a place where there was like a cliff drop off, and we were able to get up there and film, build the tower up there so that we could be at 2,000. We were over 2,000 feet actually, but we could film at 2,000 feet at times above the clouds, above airplanes at times were flying under, which was weird. And actually be at height. And it's very like old school. But that's what was lovely about it, really. Like as much, it was almost like to get there was its own journey every single day. And then when we were there was a small group of us on the top of this mountain, and we were filming, and it was very old school. It was all like, get it in camera, use the natural light, do all these things, and just capture that kind of crazy situation of the old tower rocking around in the wind there.
So you've actually built this tower, part built then
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, well, we actually got we got the guys who, so we found, so the film is based on a tower out in Arizona, like a 2,000-foot tower, and we contacted the guys who built that tower because they built a lot of them across the United States, and they came and built our tower sections for us. So we actually had them do ours because structurally they need to kind of hold and all these things. There was engineering that the stunt teams. We had an incredible stunt team, and actually had the riggers who did the Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol sequence. They were doing the rigging with us for safety and so to put actors at height and do all the right things there. But there was a bit of engineering that went on at the top for safety equipment and things to be hidden away, and kind of a wire to be holding, safety wires to be holding on. But other than that, yeah, we used the original tower guys to build the sections of tower, and getting them up the mountain was the hard bit. And all the logistics that you don't see on camera was the big struggle actually to get the film together.
So the crew must have loved you then, having to drag cranes and cameras and lights up.
Yeah, we had it was we had to widen the road. So originally the road up to the top of this mountain, this little rickety dusty road, like we had to build out and widen the road, like dig it out to get the trucks that could carry the equipment and the techno crane and all these things to get them to the top. It was this it was difficult. Let's just say it was a whole thing going on.
So I read that this sort of part built tower that you had constructed, when it first went up, you were the first client to climb up it as a kind of lead the way for Virginia and
Yeah.
Grace.
Stupidity leads the way.
But then when Grace had her opportunity to climb it for the first time, it didn't end too well when she got to the top. Is that right?
Well, actually, I wouldn't say that. Like so we went up. I think I was first, Grace second, Judy third, if I remember the order of things, and it was pretty terrifying going up there. But yeah, Grace, when she got the top, she kind of started burst out crying. But I will say it wasn't like crying as in fear, really. I think it was relief and release, because there'd been a lot of pressure. Like if you think about it, the whole film is based up there pretty much. It's like and being on board the film right from the top, where I'd told them about this, and there was an honest conversation again and again about, are we going to be okay? Are you going to be okay? And the truth is, you don't really know until you're up there, right? Like, because as much as you might say, I'm okay, you are on this singular kind of pipe thing that goes up high there. It's wobbling around in the wind. It's pretty terrifying just to look at it, and to climb up it and then get on it. You just don't know how you're going to be. and I think there was a buildup of kind of pressure to knowing that Ginny and Grace were leading the film, and all kind of eyes and everything revolves around that. There's a great deal of pressure there, and so when she came up, yeah, she cried a bit, but I think it was definitely a release of that pressure and feeling like I can do this, I've done this, and also it was beautiful. I'll be honest, it was it was stunning. That day we went up there, it, like, you know, the clouds are below you, it's this gorgeous landscape, and there's something about like the wind and the temperatures. It was actually really lovely, and we just tried to capture that in the movie when they get to the top. It was something to kind of pull from, because it was emotional, I'll be honest. And it was like, and the three of us up the top there squeezed on the little platform, we kind of talking about like, are we gonna be okay? And they're like, I think we're going to be okay. It's pretty terrifying, but we're going to be okay.
I was going to say, it wasn't sort of Grace bursting into tears saying, "Get me my agent on the phone."
You know what? There's no phone signal up there, so she couldn't have called her agent anyway.
Oh, fair enough.
But no. Grace and Ginny, I have to say, man, they are the best actors I've ever worked with in this type of way, because they absolutely like had they just went for it, had the best attitude, best energy. They did not like they were thrown around. It's uncomfortable. It's a metal grate in the desert heat. There's all these other elements going on. It's unpleasant as hell. And they didn't complain once. They didn't ever. And they actually went further, because they ended up doing a bunch of their own stunts, and which was never the expectation. But I think they got so comfortable and so kind of knowing that what we were filming, they almost didn't want to spoil it by kind of not being able to film the actor, you know, like face on. And so to really kind of put them front and center, they went for so many stunts, and they totally like Tom Cruised it all the way. So they were incredible, and I love them. I saw them like just on the weekend there, and it's just been lovely. They've just been so amazing, such incredible performance. But just honestly, on a personality point of view, like, you know what it's like the actors and directors, actors especially, set the tone of a set, I think, and the tone of a film. It literally can affect the outcome in a major way depending on that tone. And so they struck like excellence across their entire scorecard.
Well, I gather sort of right from the very start, from day one. Day one was not a great day, I understand it.
Yeah, that's true.
Beset with sort of natural disasters. Can you tell me about that a bit?
Yeah, no, day one was like, we were, you know, there's different layers of detail, but I will say that the day one, we'd spent, obviously the engineer, everything getting on top of the kit. It was almost like an achievement just to get to day one, if I'm being honest. It was so hard. It was the height of COVID. And I believe like our first bit of shooting there was the first time that like a unionized, you know, like a DJ, SAG film had managed to kind of get the go ahead after COVID, because we were outside, you know, I mean, there was two characters, it was a limited thing. So we were under a lot of pressure from the COVID angle, regardless of the rest of it. And we had all these new protocols, all these new things. But anyway, we get there, and we'd spent, I think, 2 days building a techno crane, because we had to bring it up in pieces. It was, again, it was hard. This massive techno crane was getting built up there to kind of be able to get to the top with them, really, to reach the top. That was built, and I remember going to day one, and we start shooting, and basically the wind is picking up. And I think the wind, there was like a rule on the wind, like above 20 miles an hour, you can't have the actors up there, you can have stunts up there. Above 30, stunts have to get down. Then you go above 40, you have to clear off the mountain, because it might blow the set down and all this stuff. And the first day, it was a bad omen that the first day was particularly windy. And then we flew the techno crane, right? So we had the techno crane flat, imagine, and we had like Ginny and Grace start to climb up, and we start flying it up. And as we fly it above a certain height, it basically, the camera got knocked off by the wind and completely like took the techno crane down, and we're like, and it was a nightmare. So we had to resort to like B camera, was the only thing left filming. But we've got all these other things like the stunt riggers, all this stuff going on, and we've got Ginny and Grace climbing up there, going and we're trying to keep filming, and the wind just picks up to the point where it's like, oh my god, we've got to get Ginny and Grace down, and we're like, whoa, what about stunts? And it's like, and then the wind picks up even more. Oh my god, what are we going to do? And then it picks up even more, where the threat is the whole thing might get blown over. So where do we go? And there was one small like a concrete hut that was an abandoned like radio building or whatever. So we all crammed into there which was very against planned COVID protocol, but really needs must, given that it was safe shelter from a massive metal tower falling on us. So we all shuffle there and all hide in there. And I went outside with producer James, and I kind of stand back just looking at the disaster that's unfolding. Everything's blowing around, and I watch as one of the sets literally gets lifted up and ripped off and gets blown off. And then as that happened, James came up to me with his dry British way and said, "You'll never guess what." And I was like, "What?" He said, "Saga are on their way up here to check that we're doing our COVID protocols and everyone's huddled in that building." And it was like, no, it was like the worst ever. They're on their way up the mountain. And so we sorted it out. And actually, COVID-wise, we didn't get a single COVID case in our whole time filming. So we actually super safe on that front. But yeah, that was the start of one of about 10 biblical disasters that occurred during the shoot that we had to work around and had to be creative about, you know.
So you've got Virginia and Grace 40, 50, 60 feet up in the air, up on a tiny platform. How are you directing them from the ground?
Yeah, good question. Yeah. So discovered as we were prepping it, I was thinking, oh my God, this is going to be a disaster, right? Because like, how do I get up there? So what we did was I basically at home, I cut out just in plywood, I just cut out the shape of the tower platform. And I did this when we were designing the tower, actually, just to get a better idea. So I'd already so I cut it out in plywood. I put it on a little bench. I put a pole in the middle. And then basically I invited Ginny and Grace to my yard, to my garden there. And in that space, when it's just the three of us, we were able to block out and rehearse and work through the film in a kind of nice space to direct. And we marked down kind of technically per scene. We had a baseline basically of acting. And then when it came to doing it on the day, we did a lot of it as a run, you know, as you can imagine, because it's up there, it was done as a run of a scene. I obviously could monitor with the cameras and the headsets there, but it was really very difficult to be precise about directing while they're up there. So I had a bullhorn 100 foot away, or I would get in a bucket on a crane and I could go up, and I found that certainly better for directing, because like I'm near them and I could kind of move along, blah, 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 and move and talk to them and say, "Hi, can we do this?" But it's cumbersome, and the truth is I don't get a good view of the visuals. So there's a lot of trust then that goes to my incredible DP McGregor, who had that down completely anyway. So nothing to worry about there. But the yeah, it was really like on the top of the tower. It's very hard to direct. And we built like one of the things that we learned was we built like a tiny one to get some close-ups and stuff, and that gave us like a little rehearsal space too, so we were able to do that. So that was good.
So I've really enjoyed this film, Scott. I really have. I saw it some while ago with a load of sort of film critic colleagues, and all of us are kind of, you know, talking away and kind of feeling a bit queasy. So I'm just wondering, what have you got next for us? What's lined up next?
Yeah, I don't
in that kind of disaster area.
I don't know, honestly, Simon. I think it's been such a journey to get this one done. It's been very much like it's reshaped kind of how I look at films, if I'm being honest, like how to go about them. This one was very pure filmmaking, and that was a joy of an experience. And I think I really would love that again. I think but I think it's also like it focuses you, doesn't it, in terms of what kind of as stories that we want to tell kind of theatrically, what is that space, and being honest about those spaces and what you can do with it. So I think so the truth is I don't know. I'm playing with a few things, and we'll see where they go. But I think I feel like I need a holiday. That's what I need.
Well, I was reading somewhere that you might be involved in a film called Tsunami.
Yeah, I don't know. I wrote that with Jono, the same writer. We wrote that script, and we'll see where that goes. I kind of like, there's a part of me that like that one. I don't know, I might have had my share of disasters like that for now. So it's a bit more. Again, I think what I kind of took from this was the reality of doing something and enabling kind of the sandbox of reality to film in, and I much prefer that space. So we'll see. But I don't know. Yeah, don't want to say yeah or no on anything. But I'm gonna kind of I'm gonna just try and plan for the least amount of disasters possible, basically, while on set. So we'll see.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time, Scott. Really enjoyed the film, and I hope it does well. I understand it's opening in America. We're getting it shortly.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's very exciting.
And it's great. Thanks for your time, Scott.
Thanks very much. Thank you, mate. All right, cheers.